Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Allah. Protect us in this world of illusion. Protect us from the diseases in this world of illusion. Protect us from the hypnotisms and the magnetisms in this world of illusion. Protect us from the things that keep us away from you, Allah. Protect us from the attachments to all of that that confuses us and takes us in inappropriate directions and inappropriate ways. Protect us from the darkness that fills this earth and that attempts to induce us to interact with it. Protect us from all these things, Allah. Bring your light into this world. May your light radiate and shine within all of us. Open up our hearts so that we can see your light, understand the light that comes from you, and may that light come into us and shine through us. May we become exemplars of your light. May we understand the truth of existence. May we understand reality as it really is, not through the glasses of illusion. May we understand truth the way it really is, not through the kaleidoscope of illusion. Allah, take us to the truth. Take us to reality. Show us the true way. Make us worthy receptacles of your light and your truth. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum. All of the sheikhs at one time or another will tell you that book knowledge is not the same as true knowledge. They will explain to you that reading books can only take you to a certain level. For some people, reading books and discussing what's in these books and having debates upon the different meanings of these books is religion. And to them, it's an act of obeisance to the Lord. I've watched sheikhs talk about irrelevancies for hours, where they go on and on and on, but they actually say nothing that has to do with your existence. They say nothing that has to do with your truth. They say nothing that has to do with the actuality of your relationship to Allah. My teacher always spoke directly to our hearts, and he spoke directly to the truth of existence, and he tried to let us understand what it takes to go on the path that leads you towards reality, what it takes to go on the path to bring you to the point where you can understand truth. Now, he spoke a river of words, an ocean of words, words that never stopped. So any one short talk certainly isn't going to cover all of the aspects. But at the core of things, one of the initial things that we have to get involved in is we have to become generous in our being. We have to become ones who give unto others and ones who don't hold back for the sake of ourselves. My sheikh very often used the example of the apple tree and the cow. A vegetable or a tree starts out as a seed, grows, and after it is in full bloom for a while, begins to give off literally hundreds of apples. Now, these apples are not kept by the apple tree. These apples are a gift to humanity from Allah. So this apple tree, every season, is constantly giving and giving and giving. A cow gives everything that it has during its lifetime. It gives milk. Then man slaughters it, and it gives its meat, and then it gives its skin, and it gives its bone. We use every portion of this cow to benefit man. And my sheikh says, can't we, who have 4 additional levels of consciousness higher than a cow, can't we learn how to give? Can't we learn how to be magnanimous? Can't we learn what it's like to be selfless? And this is the second part of giving. We have to attach ourselves to selflessness. As long as we are entrenched into the self and the needs of the self, it's very difficult for us to be able to give, because we are constantly trying to supply our own needs and our own desires. It's only when we stop thinking about ourselves, stop focusing on ourselves, focus on others, that we begin to be able to give. And this involves the 2 things. The loss of the egocentric self allows us to become giving. So saints attempt to lose themselves. Now, of course, the word lose yourself has a deeper meaning. You lose yourself to find Allah. You lose yourself to find the truth. So what we're doing is we're losing illusion to find reality. And this is the great payoff, that through losing illusion, losing the self, losing the idol, we then find reality. And in finding reality, we begin to act in ways that Allah acts. We begin to act in ways that the Creator acts, the Sustainer acts, the Nourisher acts, and then we can act on behalf of others. And this develops in us empathy, the ability to feel others, the ability to be able to feel the needs of others and then to react to the needs of others. Without being able to feel others, we are in a narcissistic state. We are in a state where the only thing that we feel is ourselves, our pain, our joy, our happiness, our sorrow, our emotions. A true man has given up the attachment to his pain, his sorrow, his joy, his happiness, and has come to the point where he can feel the hunger of others and the joy of others and the difficulty of others. And he shares in the joy and difficulty of others. He's happy with them when they're happy, and he's sorrowful with them when they're sorrowful. What a sheikh does, what a teacher does, and what true human beings do on the road to development towards reality is empathize with the feelings of others, empathize with their situation, empathize with what's going on in their life, and you're able then to leave your own circumstances and be totally enwrapped in the circumstances of the other ones around you. Now, this begins in the home. This begins in the family unit, and then it spreads out. If we can't do it at home, we can't do it outside. If we can't do it with the ones close to us, we certainly can't do it with people we've just met. So we have to learn to empathize. And then we also have to learn to carry burdens. One thing that the Sheikh does is when you come to him with a difficulty, he drops everything that he's doing. He gives all of his attention to you and to your difficulty, and then he absorbs your difficulty and he gives it over to Allah. Now, if he existed in his egocentric self and he absorbed all of these people's difficulties and sorrows, they would overwhelm him. But he is zero next to the one that is Allah. And by being zero, by being nothing in this world, he's able to absorb those difficulties and pass them through him. But he has an intention to absorb them. He has an intention to help. He has given himself to do Allah's work in this world as an aid to humanity. Now, not everyone can rise to this level, but everyone has the capability of rising to this level. The world does not see easily the benefit of this level because the world and worldly circumstances don't see the benefit of having Allah's qualities. They don't see the transformation of the internal being when they have God's qualities. The world is entirely interested in externalities and what is going on the outside. They're incapable of turning inward. The Sheikh's life is about bringing others to the understanding of the inward existence and the inward reality that exists outside of illusion, that exists outside of the needs and the desires and the pulls and the pushes of this external world. You know, we all have responsibilities in this creation. We all have to do things. We are born, we have to go to school, we have to get our education, we have to learn some kind of profession, we have to be able to make a living, we need to get married, we have children, we need to take care of our children, we need to take care of our spouses, we need to create a home, we have to take care of the home. These are all external responsibilities that we have to do. Allah does not have to do any of these things. He has no partners. He has no husband or wife. He has no children. He is beyond all of these things. Well, we are not. And until we get to the point where we have transcended all of our needs and desires, we cannot enter into the space of true empathy with other people. One of the things that we have to be able to overcome is the English word is nepotism. The fact that we hold favorites of the ones that are close to us and treat them entirely differently than we treat those who are not blood relatives. We have these things called blood ties. And those attachments of blood make us react differently than other attachments or other ways of knowing people. For instance, tribal society is based entirely on relationships and blood ties. Ethnic society is based on certain blood ties. All of these things lead to separations and differences. We all know the story of Allah telling Abraham to sacrifice his son. And he said to Abraham, the reason you have to sacrifice your son is that you have a blood tie to your son, and that blood tie will continue into the future where people will consider themselves separate, different, more important than people who are not from that blood tie. So for that reason, kill your son. Abraham told this to his son, and his son was ready for the sacrifice. As Abraham was about to kill him, do the korban on him, an angel came and stopped Abraham and said, we're not looking for sacrifice. However, we are looking for the cutting of blood ties. So understand that your relationship to your son is not more important than your relationship to others. And understand in the future that people who come from your bloodline should not consider themselves more important than people who come from other bloodlines. In reality, it didn't happen that way. And because of that, different sects, different religions, different ways of worshiping God developed, and each one of them considers themselves the most important because they trace their lineage to Abraham, and they indicate that their lineage is a true lineage and the most important lineage. In Islam, many people claim relationship to the Prophet, and they call themselves Sayyids. And there's as if this was an important distinction in their life. And in fact, it may be. However, we should really be aware that the Prophet said to his daughter Fatima that at the time of judgment, it is not going to be considered for you or against you that you are the daughter of the Prophet. We are all judged on our own merit. So justice, Allah's justice, is based on our own merit. Allah's justice looks at us and judges us not by what others have done, not by what others have said, not by the slander in this world, but by the truth. All that we do every day is recorded, and all of these reels are eventually played back, and the truth becomes evident, self-evident. There's no mistaking it. It's all been viewed and it's all been attested to. We have angels on our left and right shoulder, each of us, who are recording this and will be able to report on this. So there's no hiding. We cannot hide what we've done. We cannot hide ourselves from the reality that faces us. A king's fortune tellers told him he was going to die in 3 days. So he ran to the highest mountain in his kingdom, and he had a couple of people go with him, and there was a cave that had a big stone in front of it, and they opened the stone to the cave, and he went in the cave and they closed the stone. And the 3 days were up, and as the king entered the cave and turned, he saw the angel of death, who said to him, I was wondering why Allah sent me to this place to come and get you, because you were nowhere near here. And there's no avoiding what's going to happen in this world. There's no avoiding our rewards, and there's no avoiding our punishments. There's no avoiding reality. And Allah is reality. We cannot avoid him. Judgment is also something that has been reserved by Allah for himself. And if we spend our life in the critique of other people, in the critique of the world, in the critique of the actions of those we know, we are in essence creating veils from ourself and the truth. We can't be that zero that is next to the one if we are in critique mode, because then we are holding ourselves up as someone who makes decisions as to what should happen. I was with some friends and some elevated people, and there was this one person there who was just he began critiquing everybody in the room. And one of the people sat up and said, next, are you going to be deciding who goes to heaven and who goes to hell? And that's essentially what happens when you get into critique mode. The arrogance of critique mode is overwhelming. The arrogance of judgment is overwhelming. And arrogance is one of the great veils that separates us from truth. So somehow we have to wean ourselves from arrogance. Remedial humility is a course that most people should be taking. Unfortunately, it's not offered in most universities. You have to find a teacher of wisdom to get a course in remedial humility. But it's something that all of this world needs. The arrogance that we see in the world on a regular basis is really overwhelming. However, the question is, how do we react to that arrogance? How do we react to that, to those critiques? How do we react to praise and blame? In the same way that the sheikh takes on the difficulties of his dervishes and is able to relieve them of their suffering and their pain and pass it through, we have to be able to take on the difficulties of praise and blame in this world and allow it to pass through us and pass on and away to dissipate into nothingness. In reality, it is nothingness. But what happens is we hold on to those words, and for a while, those words can cut in a way that's very similar to a blade being inserted into your body. There can be great emotional pain from words, and we have to learn not to inflict that kind of pain. The ones who do inflict that kind of pain will be recorded by the angels on the shoulders and will have to answer for the emotional pain they inflicted. They'll have to answer for all of their words. And so we have to be very careful about the words that come out of our mouth. We have to be very careful about the language that we use with each other and how we use this language. Words carry a lot of impact in certain situations, and they carry very little impact in other situations. For instance, arguing about the number of angels on the head of a pin might be a good mental exercise, but it doesn't carry a lot of impact in reality. And if we're amongst the ones who are constantly arguing over fine points of scripture and their meaning or non-meaning, we haven't really accomplished much. The point being that we have to begin to act on behalf of others, do on behalf of others, give on behalf of others. My sheikh gave on the behalf of all the people in front of him. He gave me an hour here. He gave another one 2 hours there. He gave another one 6 hours there. He was constantly giving, and his purpose was to give. We need to learn how to give, and we need to be able to do this as part of who we are. And again, this giving begins in the home. We've all seen mothers and their babies. What do mothers do with their babies? They give, and they are constantly giving to the child. They are constantly helping the child. They are constantly nurturing the child. Well, this shouldn't end with the baby. This should continue throughout life. We need to give constantly, and we shouldn't see this giving as a burden. We should see this giving as an opportunity to do God's work. And the reward for doing God's work is Allah allowing you into reality, allowing you into haq, allowing us into being able to see the truth of things, the truth of how things are. Telephone. We have to learn how to put ourselves on a level where our rewards are different than our desires for this world. And we have to understand that. We have to understand the greatness of Rahman and Rahim, the greatness of God's qualities, the subtle nature of truth, the subtle nature of reality, and how it takes us higher than this world, how it takes us to transcendent places that are above and beyond what this world is capable of giving us. As long as we believe that there are rewards in this world that we have to obtain, and that these rewards are greater than anything than God can give us, we will continue to look for satisfaction in this world. And we may be many, many, many years old before we realize that satisfaction can't be found in this world. True satisfaction can only be found through Allah's qualities. True satisfaction can only be found through the integration of that which is eternal with our being, to the integration of that which is eternal with our soul. So somehow, the true being who we are, which is that part of us that Allah put within us, has to come to the forefront of who we are. And it comes to the forefront of who we are when the illusory self that we spent our lifetime nurturing begins to disappear. The illusory self that we've spent our lifetime feeding and grooming and giving all the things that it wants, we stop paying attention to it. Can we do that? Or is a Rolex more important than mercy? Is a Rolex more important than the truth? And sometimes, for whatever reason, there has to be some indulgence to get that, to get you over that. The difficulty is that if you constantly have this need, this desire in the back of your head, and it isn't satisfied, you're not going to be able to move forward. So some things have to be satisfied. There are some desires that have to be fulfilled so that you can move on. But after a while, you have to realize that there's no end to these desires, that there's no end to them coming into your life, that once one desire has been finished, another one comes to take its place. Desire is relentless. Satan is relentless. Need is relentless. The hunger for this world is relentless. And we have to somehow learn to be less inclined to eat all the time. There's a story of two bullfrogs who were disputing territory. They both wanted it. And so they kept bumping heads with each other over the control of the territory. Finally, one of them opened up its mouth as large as it could, and the other one jumped into its mouth and blew himself up as much as he could. And eventually, the two of them just blew up. And this is what happens as we try to consume the world. Eventually, we blow ourselves up. There's a Monty Python movie where this huge man walks into a restaurant and he's had this enormous meal and he says, "Just one more mint." And he bites the mint and he blows up. And this is a worldly example of the reality of our existence. We consume until we blow ourselves up. We need to become small. And this work for becoming small takes intention and takes effort. We have to learn to be satisfied slowly with different things. We have to learn to be satisfied with not the rewards of the world, but the rewards of truth. We have to learn to get our satisfaction from the rewards of truth. We have to learn to get our satisfaction through seeing a hungry man eat and seeing him be satisfied. We need to see the satisfaction of a homeless man who's been given a pair of shoes, put on a pair of shoes, and be able to walk around with his feet covered. We need to be able to get satisfaction from those kinds of things, from the kinds of things that don't have to do with ourselves being gratified, but with others being gratified. We have to understand those others' needs and others' desires and others' wants, and we have to become involved in fulfilling those needs. Allah gives us, each of us, He gives us the air we breathe, He gives us the water we drink, He gives us the food we eat. Without these things, where would we be? Without these simple things. You know, if anybody's had difficulty breathing, if anybody's had a situation where they couldn't catch their next breath, you begin to realize how important the air that we walk around in and that we ignore is to us constantly during the day, even though we're not cognizant of it. So Allah has taken care of us in ways that we don't even think about, that we don't imagine, that are not part of our everyday thinking process. But they should become part of our everyday thinking process. We should be cognizant of all that we're given just to maintain our being. And then we have to go into the world and become helpmates to others in any way that we can. And again, it begins at home. We have to be kind to our wife, we have to be kind to our husband, and we have to be kind to our children. This is an incredibly important role. You know, in Turkey, Ataturk, the founder of the Turkish Empire, has great influence in the country. And one of his sayings that they repeat over and over, he says, as there is peace in the home, there will be peace in the world. And it's true. Everything starts at the smallest unit, and it goes from the smallest unit and spreads out to the whole world. The Quran tells us, and the Hadith tell us, that we will have leaders who represent who we are. In other words, if we are magnanimous, if we are giving, if we are transcendent, we will have leaders who are magnanimous and who are transcendent. But if we are none of those things, we will have leaders who are none of those things. So everything depends on us. Everything depends on each one of us. Each one of us has an influence on what's going on in the world, and we have to take this responsibility seriously. We are also each our brother's keepers. We are not walking alone through this world, and we are not here to accumulate on our behalf. We are here to become Allah's representatives on earth, to do His work on earth. Ya Allah, most gracious King, most gracious ruler, sustainer and nourisher, the one who gives unceasingly to all of your creation, the one who protects all of his creation, the one who keeps us all alive, the one who's through your love we have come into creation. We thank you for this life you have given us. We thank you for the air we breathe. We thank you for the water we drink and the food that we eat. We thank you for each and everything that you've given us to maintain and sustain us. We thank you for this life, and we ask you to expand us so that we become ones who know the truth, so that we become worthy of being friends of Allah. Be worthy of being brought close to you, Allah. And we understand that to be brought close to you, we must become like you. We must do the work that you do. We must have the intention that you have. And your intention, Allah, is love. And therefore, you must make our intention love. Kindness must pour out of our fingertips. Generosity should come through our words and through our eyes and through our smiles. We must be among those who give. We must set our intention to be among those who become helpmates in this world to all of the ones who need help. Allah, give us the strength to do on behalf of others. Allah, give us the strength to be able to do your work in this world. And Allah, we ask you to open our hearts so that we can see Haqq clearly, that we can see truth clearly, that we can see you clearly. Take us on a voyage towards you. Take us on a straight path towards you. Let us understand the nature of reality. Let us understand who you are and who we are to become. Allow us to understand who our sheikhs are and to become like them. Allow us to be able to give up the self and merge into you. Allow us to know you. Allow us to be with you. Please do this for each of us. Please open up our hearts so that the light that is your light comes into us and through us, and that we can see through that light and see reality. May that happen for each of us. May that happen quickly. Ameen. Ameen. Ya Rabbil Alamin.